What is going on, Cuse Nation? Welcome to Orange Heat. We got a quick call-in segment with my man, Gibby Gobbler. Gibby, how you doing, buddy?
What's going on? I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing good, Gibby. I'm doing good. Now, how are you feeling about Syracuse football right now, man? A lot of good stuff's been happening.
Yeah, this week, what day is today? Tuesday? I'm feeling a lot better than I last Tuesday.
Yeah.
This week, I feel like against Western Michigan, big breakout week that we needed. Players are finally living up to their fullest potential. And like I said, breakout week, everybody was having a really good game. Tommy DeVito, Mo Neal, Tristan Jackson. So I think breakout game, and I'm hoping for big things the rest of the season.
Absolutely, Gib. I couldn't agree with you more. And, I figured I'd share this with you. I had a whole plan. I was going to get on here last week if I had a little bit more time on my hands after Clemson, and I was going to reassess the rest of the season. And I was going to say that, this is not the team we saw last year. We need to reset our expectations. Right. And I was thinking, we need to reset our expectations and reevaluate where we are. And honestly, I think I'm going to pump the brakes on that because for the first time since last season, I saw a confident offense that played very, very well. And that was really the closest I've seen him to last season. And I'm not going to lie to you, Gib. It felt pretty darn close. There was just a different quarterback under the helm.
Yeah. Tommy DeVito looked a lot better in every aspect, not just throwing the ball, but he wasn't afraid. I think that's the really big thing. He's finally stepping out of his shell, and just, like embracing the role of quarterback. And he's really not afraid anymore, and he's doing everything he can for the team. And we saw that Saturday.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more, and I think it's a lot of compliments to the coaching staff as well. You saw them implement, honestly, almost as if they were reverting back to their playbook from last season. You saw more of a run-pass option, and you saw straight-up designed quarterback runs that just were not there weeks 1, 2, and 3. You saw them against Western Michigan, and they worked because the kid rushed for 100 yards if you don't count the sacks that he took. And he broke one for 60. He broke a 42-yard touchdown run. So this kid's got wheels.
Yep, he does. He is fast. Once he, again, just gets out of his own head and he's not afraid to run the ball, yeah, he can be scary, for sure.
And you hit the nail right on the head. I really think for the first time he looked, first of all, not just not scared. And he looked scared in the other 3 games. And he looked confused at times. And he looked like he just wasn't ready to be there yet. But matter of fact, I think Saturday he looked confident. And that was something really special to see. And you saw that connection transpired throughout the entire offense because your run game got going. Your offensive line play just it really got to be the best it's been all year. Now, I'm not saying it was perfect. It certainly wasn't. A lot of things to fix there still. But it was the best it's been all year. And your receivers were balling out as well. Tristan Jackson in this ball game, just 2 touchdowns and well over 150 yards. That's all.
He was named ACC Receiver of the Week. I'm sure you saw that, but yeah, he got that honor this week.
Absolutely. Now, what do you think about the defensive side of the football, Gib? They did allow 33 points in this contest.
For the most part, we pride ourselves on the defense, at least, for the beginning of the season. I mean, not necessarily the beginning of the season, but going into the season, we were really excited for this defense, I think, especially.
Absolutely.
And, in a general sense, the defense wasn't bad. 33 points, obviously is a lot. But the one thing that concerned me was the rushing. I'm not sure how to say his name, but the West running back.
Bellamy,
yeah.
Guy.
Yeah. He carried 15 times for 165 yards, averaging 11 per carry.
And he got injured in the third quarter. And we took him out of the game.
Yeah, those numbers right there, that sparks a little, not fear in my brain, but just a little, caution. But the passing game, I mean, he did throw, around 350 yards, I think? But he only had about a 50% completion rate and ended up throwing a pick. So,
and the thing you have to look, and the thing you have to look at there as well in the pass game is two of your best secondary players right now were not playing on Saturday. Andre Sisco, All-American safety, led the nation in interceptions last year. He didn't play in this ball game. And Ifatu Melifanu didn't play in this ball game either. Now, good news, they did say that it's really not major injuries at all, slight lower body injuries. These guys are going to be back in just about no time. And I think if you're Syracuse, you don't play them this week because it is just Holy Cross. And then on top of that, they'd have a bye week the following week, and they'll be back and ready to go for NC State. What do you think about that? Because I think that's a huge impact of why Western Michigan was able to pass the ball with some success.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, without a doubt.
Yep, and looking at the run game, it's really interesting. I think our linebacker play has actually been pretty solid, and that was a big question mark going into this season. Lakeem Williams has played well. Armstrong stepped up. Michael Jones, when he needs to, he's only a freshman, has played big minutes. But interesting how Travis Etienne, a Heisman candidate running back last week, we basically shut him down. Shut him down all across the board. And this week, Western Michigan's running back goes off. I don't know if it's a situation where Syracuse was just looking more to protect the pass game. I don't know if it's a situation that, sometimes Sisco, he was the leading tackler against Maryland. He's coming up on some plays and stopping the run as well. I don't know exactly what the mix was for, but you stop a Heisman candidate running back, and Bellamy's a great running back in his own right, but that was interesting to me.
No, yeah, you make a very good point there, and it is interesting, for sure. I don't know, really. I mean, I think they relied on the run game a little more, Western Michigan, that is. I think he had a few more carries than the team as a whole, I think, had getting reps in than Clemson as a whole. So that might be one aspect, but you're right, Clemson didn't run the ball as much because we were shutting it down.
Yeah. Now, Gib, let's take a look at the rest of the Syracuse football schedule before we let you go, and let's kind of give a reassessment of where you think we are right now and what we're looking at as our final prediction here, because as I said at the beginning of the season, I thought this team, I was a little high on them. I thought they were going 11-1, and clearly that's not going to happen. We already have 2 losses, but what do you think? I'll pull up the schedule right now, and let's see what you think about it.
Looking at it.
So you have Holy Cross this week. It's a guaranteed win, you'd got to think, right?
Yeah. Oh, almost 100%. That's a win.
Right. And you don't underestimate anybody, especially because teams sleeping all the time. But this isn't even a team. It's not like a Villanova or a James Madison or one of those teams that's at the top of the FCS. This is a low level, like no-name FCS program. So we should have no problem mopping the floor with them.
Especially a home game, I'm really not worried about this one.
Me neither. But you have the bye week, which is, I think it's at a nice time in the season. Then you're going to start your crunch of ACC play. Obviously, you already played Clemson, but you're going on the road to NC State. It's a weird time and day. It's on a Thursday night. What do you think about that game?
I think that's going to be, I'm going to say it right now, I think that's going to be the make or break game of the season. I think we're on a good path right now. We just started to get on the good path, really good offensive game against Western Michigan, and we know we can rely on our defense. So I think it's more our offense that needs to get in flow. I think Holy Cross is another really good chance to, as we were saying, Holy Cross isn't, the best team, but still, they're a football team, and they got some good guys. So I think that's another test to see if we can get some cohesion within the offense. And then I think those are kind of like not practice runs, but kind of trial runs. And then the real test, I think, will be NC State. And I think we win that game. That sets the tone for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. That's going to be a tough environment down in Raleigh. I'm excited for that one on a Thursday night. We're going to get out of fall play rehearsal, and we're going to go home and watch some football. It's going to be a beautiful thing.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Finley's gone. It's a different NC State squad this year. I don't think they're as strong as they have been in the recent years, and I have to agree with you. I think Syracuse gets a much-needed and a kind of turning point type win that week at NC State. But after that, you're hosting Pitt on a Friday night, and I hate to bring it up, but Pitt just hung in there with Penn State, lost by a touchdown. They
Oh,
were
yeah.
right in that ball game. And then last week, they beat the number 15 ranked UCF Knights, who have lost, 2 games in the last 3 seasons or something crazy like that? What do you think about
Yeah.
Pitt?
Pitt, I mean, they've always been a great team. They handed us a loss last year. They have a really good defense, and I think again, the NC State game will give us some momentum going into that game if that's a win, and it helps that they're coming to the Dome. That for sure. That plays a really big factor. We got that home field, so I'm not as nervous. But if we're playing at Pitt that game, I think we'd be having a different conversation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The thing that scares me about Pitt right now is they're not really an offensive football team. Okay, Quadre Ollis and Darren Hall, they're gone. They're in the NFL. Their dynamic running back set is gone. So they're not really, they got a nice quarterback in Pickett, but they're not an offensive team. The scary thing about the Pitt Panthers right now is they are stud, absolutely stud. I think they're one of the best defenses in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And that scares me for the simple fact that besides this game against Western Michigan, Syracuse hasn't showed that they're capable of scoring and playing good offense. And that's something you need to do in order to beat Pitt because their defense could chew you up all day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they held 13 ranked Penn State to 17 points.
That's huge.
And, this was a Penn State team that in their first 2 games of the season scored 79 and 45. Again, not against these squads that have as much talent as Pitt, but still 79 points.
And it was in Happy Valley too.
Yeah, no matter who you're playing, 79 points is a lot.
Yeah,
and they held them. Pitt's defense held them to 17.
Absolutely, and Pitt did it on the road at Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley, which makes it even more impressive. So they know how to play in a hostile environment because that is just as hostile as it gets. That's one of the most historic and basically a college football landmark, Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley for the Penn State Nittany Lions. And Pitt nearly got it done there, and they certainly played a good defensive game. After that, Syracuse is going to travel down to Tallahassee. They're going to play the Florida State Seminoles, Gib. Now, Florida State a little bit still on a down, I think. They just lost to Virginia on the road. Me and you watched that game together as we were leaving the Clemson game. We watched the big Virginia win. Now, Virginia is a very good team, so Florida State hung in there with them on the road, but they've also have some bad losses and some situations where they should have beat teams by a lot more this year. What do you expect down in Tallahassee in a couple weeks?
I think the big hurt for Florida State was that week 1 loss to Boise State. I mean, Boise State is a good team, but just week 1, that hurt them. But then you see they came back and beat UL Monroe, and then again they lost to Virginia on the road to a very good Virginia squad, and then beat Louisville by 11. So I think this game's definitely going to be an interesting one. And like I said, I think we need to pick up momentum, and we're starting right now. But once we get it, I think we're going, and we're going. Once the offense finally gets to flow, I have a lot of confidence in our defense. So I think once we keep winning, we're going to win.
I think it all depends on what happens that week before against Pitt, but you kind of hit the nail right on the head. I think Florida State, 5 stars on that football team. They always recruit well. They have the talent. Willie Taggart is trying to get that program in the direction that Seminoles fans would like it to go in, and I think that's a 50-50 ball game right there.
Yeah, and you got to check schedule before Florida State plays Syracuse. They're taking on NC State, Clemson, and then Wake.
Wow, that's a tough slate.
Back to back. They have a bye week in between NC State and Clemson, but still, that is like 3 pounding games in a row.
Absolutely. I mean, that's your thick of your ACC play right there.
Yeah.
Now,
and they're playing.
Oh, go ahead.
Clemson. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I don't see anybody beating Clemson this year, man. I'm sorry.
No.
If anybody was going to do it, I thought it was Syracuse. And Clemson's not playing Virginia, and you could make the argument that, okay, Virginia could be the team to do it. Maybe Wake Forest because they can score a lot. Maybe Pitt because they can stop them defensively. But I don't see anybody beating Clemson.
Maybe, I don't think there's one really safe bet that a game that Clemson could lose. I don't think there's one that you look at and they're like, okay, that's the biggest chance they have of losing. I think, yeah, it's a lot of maybes and what ifs, you know?
The two were supposed to be Texas A&M at home because Texas A&M a good team and stuff, but that was in Death Valley. And then the hardest game was supposed to be Syracuse, and we talked about it. They were more in that game than the score showed, but obviously the Orange couldn't get it done. Now, after this Florida State game, we're going to be taking on Boston College. What do you think about BC? I think that's an easy win. It's at the Dome. I think you just stomp them right into the ground and show that you're still a force in the ACC Atlantic.
Yeah, I think that one should be a win. Out of our upcoming games besides Holy Cross, I think this is probably the safest bet to say this is a win at the Dome. Boston isn't a bad team, but they've had nothing really stand out so far this season. No huge standout wins. No huge standout, really, players, I guess. So this is one definitely, I think, that we can secure.
Absolutely. We're talking about a lot of 50-50 ball games here, Gib, and I got another one for you. Syracuse at Duke. I think if it's at the Dome, it's a different situation, but you're on the road at Duke. Fans like to show up there for football as well. Daniel Jones is gone, but this team has been headed in a positive direction year after year. They're slowly growing, and they're kind of a sleeper in this conference, my friend.
Yeah, I think this one definitely is probably a 50-50 game. But even you got to take a look at the schedule. I mean, the week before they're playing Syracuse, they're playing Notre Dame. So, I mean, I know that's not a huge aspect, but they could be coming off against Notre Dame. They could be coming off a rough loss, which could go two ways. It could give them that fire, to come back and beat hopefully a well-developed Syracuse team at that point of the season, or it could really put them down in the dumps and make them even worse for that game.
Or it could go the other way. They could somehow beat Notre Dame, because I don't think Notre Dame's all that they're cracked up to be, if I'm being quite honest with you. And say they beat Notre Dame, they could either be too confident and Syracuse wipes them up, or they could be pumped off that and kill Syracuse. So this is a game that it's so late in the season. Right now, it's impossible to tell.
Yeah.
Syracuse has been plagued with injuries early goings here. So that's a situation where we're not going to know for a little bit.
Yeah, that's a big what if game, and we got a month until that game, over a month. So we definitely will see. But it's definitely too late from now to make any for sure bets.
Absolutely. Gib, now you're playing Louisville, and that one's on the road at Papa John's Stadium. Louisville much improved. Actually, they hung in there with Notre Dame. They hung in there with Florida State. I'm not saying that they're a team that's ready to make any kind of strides. I don't know if we're even talking bowl game, but they're definitely better than the 2-win team they were last year. New coach. What do you think about Louisville? On the road.
On the road, I mean, again, if we're playing at home, I think that's one we can almost lock up. But on the road, that's such a different atmosphere, the noise, just the whole environment of being on the road. I think that makes it tougher. But I also think this is another, even this far in advance, I think this is another semi-safe bet along with Boston College to say that we should be able to take this one home.
Absolutely, man. Now, capping off the year, a team that I have really enjoyed watching play this year. I'm excited for this game. It's going to be inside the Loud House Carrier Dome. I'm confident in this team, and I've been rooting for them, except, of course, when they're going to play the Orange at the end of the season for rivalry week. That's the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, Gib. They're 4-0 right now. They beat a good Utah State team that went 11-2 last year. They took down Rice. They have an ACC conference win against North Carolina. Right now, they're sitting at 4-0, and it's looking pretty if you're a Demon Deacons fan. What do you think about this team and Jamie Newman and this dynamic offense?
Oh, it's looking. I mean, I think they're just going to keep continuing. Like, looking at their upcoming schedule, they got Boston College, Louisville, Florida State. I think obviously the Forest is probably the sweet all.
That's seriously a team that you could see. Honestly, I'm being completely honest with you, Gib. I think that you could see them be 6 or 7-0 in a couple weeks because of the way their schedule is playing out.
Oh, I'm with you. 100% high chance. that Wake Forest goes 6, 7, maybe even 8-0.
Absolutely.
Eight might be a stretch, but 6, 7, I'm definitely with you. I think that's a very high possibility.
Absolutely.
This is the game. This is our next game. I'm probably most worried about, but again, it's way far off in the season, and they're coming to the Carrier as another huge aspect in our favor.
Absolutely, Gib. I think the two key games that are sticking out to me right now are playing Pitt and playing Wake Forest. Luckily, we got those both in the Dome, so I got to say I think the hardest game besides those two, because it's on the road, it has to be Florida State and Tallahassee.
Yeah, I think NC State's going to be another tough one, but again, I think that's
True.
going to be our real test, and I think this team I think they will be ready. Hopefully, they back up my word at the Holy Cross game and show that they are ready. But I really think they will be ready, and this is going to be the big test for the rest of the season.
Absolutely.
But after that, after the NC State, I'm excited.
Absolutely. Guys, we got to thank Gibby for coming on. If you haven't already, go check out Gibby Gobbler Food Review YouTube channel. You are absolutely going to love it. It's got all your content for food. It's got all the laughs. It's got everything you could possibly need. Fans, keep on supporting the Orange. This season is not over. There's plenty of work to be done, and there's a lot of exciting football left to be played. This team is very capable of honestly winning out the way this schedule fares, and you just got to keep morale in the Orange. And look, one more loss and winning the rest of them, you're right back to where you were last year. So let's pump the brakes. Let's breathe a little bit, and let's just watch some Syracuse football Saturday in, Saturday out. Gib, thank you so much for joining me, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Great, always great talking some nice Syracuse football.
Absolutely. Thanks again, guys. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and let's go Orange, baby. Woo!
Turn on a little bell.